Hey y'all, it's Karen Allen. A lot of you know that I am an author, and some of you just think that I write books for adults, but I also write books for children. And I wanted to share a special book with you all today, especially for the place that we're all in this country and our families. Our kids are home now from school because of what's going on, and you know, they're afraid. Even if they haven't told you that, they are. And I understand. And I think that it's a time that we need to talk to our kids about being afraid and being fearful. And so I wanted to share a book with you that I've written. It's called The Awesome Possum, and it's all about overcoming fear. And the whole point of this book is that it is okay to be afraid. It's just not okay to stay afraid. And that's what our kids need to hear, that it's okay. I mean, adults were afraid. You know, we have this, it's the unknown, and you know, what does tomorrow hold? And all of that is, it's okay. We just can't stay there. We can't camp out there. We can't live there. And so that's what this book is all about. It's about making sure that our kids know that it's okay to be afraid, but it's just not okay to stay afraid. And there are ways that we can handle our fear. So I want to share this book with you, and I'm the author, so you have my permission to like it and share it and share it and share it and get it into as many homes as possible so our kids can hear this book and really just be ministered to in this very uncertain time. And so there's also a talkback page. So at the end of the video, if you go down to the comments, I will screenshot that, and you can actually go through and talk to your child about these questions. And really, it just opens up the door for them to talk to you, and maybe you can just see a little bit about where they are as well. So let's dive into The Awesome Possum, written by me and illustrated by the amazing Jacqueline Sloan. You ready? All right, kids, here we go. Hi, my name is Perry the Possum. Have you ever had a nickname before? Well, I have, and this is a story of how I got it. It's a story of how I learned to overcome fear. This is me. I'm Perry, and I am one awesome possum. Yes, you are, Perry. Just before dark, Perry's family is outside playing a game of volleyball. Suddenly, they hear the vicious neighborhood dog Tank heading right for them. Tank usually invaded their neighborhood at least once a week. The barking sends all of the possums scrambling to find a hiding place. Tank turns the corner and spots Perry's dad beside a wooden log. Tank snarls, showing his teeth as he gives a long, deep growl. Perry's dad is so scared that he stiffens his legs, falls over to one side, and plays dead. Tank looks at Perry's dad, sniffs him, and then walks away. There he is, right there on the edge, playing dead. That's what possums do, by the way. When they're afraid, they play dead. As Perry walks to school, he begins thinking of what happened the night before. He realizes that every time he becomes afraid, he does the same thing that his dad does, and he plays dead. One time he saw a fox get a little too close. He was so afraid he laid down near the bushes and played dead. He was still for what felt like forever. Another time, Perry was taking a test in class. He became so afraid of failing that he fell right out of his chair and onto the floor. He played dead for the whole class. Perry started to wonder if there was a better way to handle being afraid. There must be another way to fight fear than just playing dead. Perry goes to his grandma's house to see if she could help answer his questions about being afraid. Perry calls his grandma Oma. She is old, wrinkly, and always smells like apple pie. He snuggles up to her and says, "Hey, Oma, do you play dead when you're scared or afraid?" Oma answers in her sweet voice, "Well, of course I do. Your mama plays dead, your daddy plays dead, and your granddaddy plays dead. We possums play possum. That's the only way to handle being afraid." Later that night, Perry thinks about what his Oma said. Something in his heart keeps telling him that there's a different way to handle his fear. Perry isn't going to stop until he finds out exactly what that is. There's Oma. And the apple pie. During recess, Perry decides to sit on the bench with his teacher, Mr. Winston. Perry has always thought Mr. Winston was smart because of his bow tie and his glasses. Perry asks, "Hey, Mr. Winston, do you play dead when you're scared or afraid?" Mr. Winston answers in his smartest voice, "Why, of course I do. My mother plays dead, my father plays dead, and my grandfather plays dead. We possums play possum. That's the only way to handle being afraid." Perry thinks about what Mr. Winston said. Still, something in his heart tells him that there's more than one way to handle fear. Perry's even more determined than ever to find the answer to his question. On the bus ride home, Perry sits with his favorite friend, Pearl. He likes that she always carries her special blanket with her, and when she laughs, she snorts. Perry asks, "Hey, Pearl, do you play dead when you're scared or afraid?" Pearl answers in her adorable voice, "Why, of course I do. My mama plays dead, my daddy plays dead, and my granddaddy plays dead. We possums play possum. That's the only way to handle being afraid." As Perry gets off the bus, he is certain that being afraid could look different. Very different. Early one morning, Perry decides to explore the woods a bit. Far back in an area of the woods he's never been, he sees something move in the distance. Perry begins to panic. He can feel the fear grip his heart. He is just about to play dead when he hears, "Sonny, what you doing in my woods?" Perry takes a deep breath in and says, "Sir, I'm sorry. I did not know these were your woods. Who are you?" "Well, I'm Apollo, the wise old possum. Well, that's what people call me anyway." Perry answers, "It's nice to meet you. May I ask you a question?" "Well, Sonny, sure you can. People ask me questions all the time. That's what helped me become so wise." Perry asks, "Apollo, do you play dead when you're scared or afraid?" "Well," Apollo answers, "sometimes I do, but not every time. I've learned that there are several different ways to handle fear. Did you know that it's okay to be afraid? Everyone is afraid of something at some point in their life. It's okay to be afraid. It's just not okay to stay afraid. When you first saw me, you were scared, but you didn't play dead. You took a deep breath in. That's a great way to fight fear. I always breathe in through my nose like I'm taking a big sniff of cookies. Then I blow the air out of my mouth like I'm blowing out candles. I do this a few times, and the fear, well, it's not so bad anymore." You know, Sonny, another way to handle fear is to talk about it. If you're afraid of something, tell someone. Often just talking about your fear helps you realize there's nothing to be afraid about. Perry shouts, "I knew it! I just knew there was another way to fight fear." "Thanks, Apollo. You really are a wise old possum." Perry's heart is so happy he feels like he could fly home. Recess is almost over, and Perry hears the familiar sound of loud barking and fierce growling. It was Tank. As Tank barrels through the playground, all of Perry's friends are falling over, stiff as a board. Perry wants to do the same, but he remembers the words of Apollo. He takes 5 long, deep breaths in, just like he was sniffing Oma's chocolate chip cookies. Then he blows through his mouth as if he were blowing out his birthday candles. He could feel the fear begin to leave. He bravely steps in front of Tank and says, "Sir, will you please stop chasing us? We don't like it at all." Tank stutters, I'm really sorry. I didn't think about how you might feel. I won't chase you anymore, I promise." With that, Tank turns and leaves the playground. The next day, Perry finds a note on his desk from Pearl. "Dear Perry, I saw what you did on the playground yesterday, and I'm so proud of you. I was so scared, and I know you were too. But even though you were afraid, you didn't play dead like we always do. You did it differently. You made me realize there's another way to overcome my fear. Perry, I think you are one awesome possum. Love, Pearl." The end. Remember, friends, It's okay to be afraid. It's just not okay to stay afraid. I think you are one awesome possum.